Hello viewers, welcome to CodeForAny Medicare app Backend's API inside. Today we need to creating here the connection between here the socket IO. We need to write down here the socket config codes inside the Node.js. We need to call here. Let's start how to write downs inside. First of all, we need to explain here the how to start here the MySQL because we need to get here the many commits uh, to how to start here the. First of all, you need to your local system inside the install this here the XAMPP, and you need to start XAMPP applications, and then to start this here. If you available here the Tomcats, then to start running as a Tomcat Apache, then start Apache. And also need to make sure you need to start here the MySQL database, and you need to start like this here this service. If you not start, please make sure you need to first of all the start, otherwise need to db connection crash logs need to generate it inside this file here, need to gettings here inside the crash logs folders. Now you need to start here socket connections. First of all you need to show here the mysql how to opens. We need to first of all the open here your browsers after the starting here the Apache, otherwise the Tomcat servers, and with my SQLs need to service start. Then after need to write down here the local host, and to write down here the slash php my admins, and to clicks and open this here the database, and to show like this here the database list. And now need to opening this here the Medicare apps, and to showing here the all created tables, and also need to provide this here the SQL files need to inside the Node.js codes inside put here. If you not write here all self tables, then to export and to put inside the codes today. Now no need these tables, need to close these here. Now we need to go inside the socket. Tomorrow only creates here the export the controllers. We need to write here the codes because we need to crashing here the not started server. That's one to directly we need to write down here these lines. Now first of all we need to need this here the two variables declares here. First one is the helper, and we need to connect here the helper class. Need to calls here the required, and we need to pass here the single quote inside the slash dot dot slash, and to get this here the helper class, and slash need to use this here the db helpers, need to call here, and we need to same as we need to create here the db connections. Same need to required, need to pass this here single quotes inside slash dot slash slash, and we need to get this here the helper class slash we need to db helpers, like need to get here the both class connections we need to get inside, and to access this function inside these files need to go and look like this here the writing here this here, this is functions are the right, and to exporting here like this here the functions. Now we need to go inside here the declares here the common variables. First of all need to set here the const msg, and need to give this here the success message. We need to write down here this is the commonly used, need to put here, so need to set here the success like here, and same as you need to msg fail, we need to declare here is equal to fail response. This is the common message. If you one place to change all message, then to look like this here the structures follow. Now we need to use this here this IO class. We need to already connect inside the socket in app.js. We need to creating here the IO. These variables need to access, and to given this here the provide inside the parameters. We need to construct inside this value. We need to pass here this both value. Now we need to write down here the use this here the IO methods. We need to calls here. We need to on methods, and we need to listen this here the connect listens. Need to connection methods. We need to listen here, and we need to receive this here the client. Need to write down here the client, and need to get here if you any users are new user connects, otherwise other user connection are lost and again reconnect, then to get this here the response we need to get here. Now we need to write down here the client on methods. We need to again so need to listen this here the on methods, and we need to call this here the update socket events, Need to listen here, like here, and also need to get this here the data here, get here the data. This is the like here the writing here the events. We need to call here. Now we need to print this here the helper dot dlogs extension methods. We need to call here, and to print this here the get like this here the logs. Need to this socket are listens. Need to get any users and new user are connected, and to show this here the data. Need to print here. And now we need to save this here the data inside the JSON object. JSON date object. To write down here the object variables, and we need to declare here the JSON dot parsers, because we need to get inside the string value. We need to always convert this data inside the data like here. Now we need to call this here the check parameters valids on sockets. We need to identify here the which parameters required parameters we need to needs, and we need to identify this is are valid or not. So we need to check. If not valid, to return this here the these sockets. We need to directly call this here the update sockets. Now we need to call this here the helper dot check parameters. Need to check this here the methods inside the helper class. Now need to go here and to call this here the check parameters where it is events functions. Need to calls look like this here the inside the write downs here the validates if true and missing parameters. Now one by one checking this here the all keys. This key are the required and to check inside the property this key are available. If not available, then to validate need to set here the false and to attach here the missing parameters inside this value. If not valid, then to missing parameters and events need to fire this here the event names. Need to give this here the appropriate function inside need to give this here the event names, and this event once need to fire this here the client in these sockets, and need to get this like here the message status 0 message missing parameters, and to parameters names also need to returning this here which is parameters need to returns this message only showing here the if here the not debug more than to parameters names are the blanks we need to pass, because we need to app security is measures inside the production. That's why we need to not sending here the missing parameters, only debug mode inside the sending here the parameters names. This is make sure we need to call this here the any callbacks and API calls. We need to always make sure if production then not pass here the any parameters name in missing parameters names. If debug modes not matters, because debug modes inside into the testing, and every time need to not calling here the which parameters in one by one checking here. That's why I need to write like this. We need to codes here, need to set here. Now need to go against here the socket controllers, and need to write here the one by one functions. First of all, need to pass this here the client as a client value variables need to pass. Then event name inside need to give this here the same name. So need to returning this here the events. And then after need to pass here the JSON objects, and we need to check parameters. Need to give this here the key name. Need to set here user ID. Need to needs here for these checkings, and need to set here and to get here the callback here. Like we need to write down here the functions, and we need to callbacks arrange here. And again, so we need to write down here, and we need to returning this here the response if here the gettings, and to client dot emit methods we need to calls and to return this response inside the against the socket. Here need to write down here did socket same names inside we need to fire this event response, set here the status, set here 1, and now message msg success. We need to returning this here the sockets against these sockets inside we need to emit fire server to client. First one we need to get this here the request client to server, then server to clients we need to responding here. Here not matters one time send, again we need to send, this is the possibles, and REST API and say only one time connections we need to one time gets here the request, and server can fire the response. Here possibles here the multiple inputs and multiple outputs. Now we need to save this inside the this active users we need to identify, and also need to save this here the socket list inside this socket connections. Need to write down here like this socket variables we need to set here, and we need to identifications also need to set for the key, and we need to objects inside into JSON object dot user id. Again, so need to save this here the this socket, and we need to write down here socket id colons is equal to client dot id. Like this, we need to save here these variables, and we need to configure this here. And now we need to print this here the socket list. Check here, save or not. So need to identify here. Only for the debug purpose, we need to print, and then after the done, so need to remove these lines. Otherwise, we need to log file size are increases. Needed informations only production inside to unused log always need to disable. Otherwise, need to your increase your size. This make sure. And server allocate this here the more space. And this is for connections here the configures here the socket connections. If you like this video, please give the thumbs up. If you're new user, so please subscribe my channels and press the notification bell icon. You can get every new video notifications and awesome content. If you have any questions, so please write down the comment sections. I will help you and sort out your issue. Everyone have a nice day. Goodbye and take care.